نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم بارك لنا في رجب وشعبان وبلغنا رمضان Ameen Ya Rabbal Alameen. We greet you with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wherever you may be in the world, but most of all in Britain, because I'm preparing now to travel to Britain. And our topic today is COVID-2. We already had COVID-1. So now COVID-2, the Masjid and the secular state. And time and again in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has warned us to take guidance from Him, not from others. To go to the Quran and submit to the Quran and submit to Allah who sent the Quran. That He is Al-Akbar, He is the Supreme Being. His authority is supreme, He is the sovereign. His law is the supreme law, He is Al-Hakim. And if we do not do that and we turn to others and we give our supreme loyalty to others rather than to Allah, and we recognize others to be sovereign other than to Allah, we are committing shirk. That's right. Well, I recognize the COVID virus, I recognized the COVID virus 2 years or more ago to have come from a laboratory, not from nature. And I therefore recognize it as biological warfare. And there are many now who agree with me. And I further went on to say, well, if the COVID is biological warfare, the vaccine can't be innocent. But we're concerned today with the COVID virus. Nabi Muhammad ﷺ is the messenger of Allah. Allah chose him, Allah sent him. And Allah ordered us in the Quran to obey him. What He asks you to do, do it, and what He prohibits you, refrain from it. This is His command in the Quran. And from that day to this day, all Muslims, all have accepted. No one has rejected it. That He has commanded us to pray in the Masjid, shoulder to shoulder, with no space in between. All Muslims, no one differs. Everybody agree that He said, if you leave a space between yourselves in the line, then shaitan or Satan will come and take that space. Good? And I have so much admiration for that Imam who would not start and lead the Salat until he turns around. Today our Imams are scared to even turn around to look. They're so scared. They are now professionals who are paid a salary and they're afraid to lose their job. But not this Imam. Not only would he turn around, but he would do more than that. He would inspect every single row, every single stuff. He will go behind you. And if he finds that you're not in the row, he'll push you a little bit to get you straight. I was praying one day when I felt his little finger on me and I had to move a little forward. Yes. I had admiration for that Imam. That he would not lead the Salat until he agreed. He found that all his soldiers were standing perfectly, correctly. That's the prayer in Islam. And then came COVID. And the government around the world, following the World Health Organization from Geneva, governments around the world were instructed to enforce social distancing. That you have to stand 3 feet or 6 feet apart or whatever it is. in order to prevent the spread of disease. Well, we have our own method of spreading, of dealing with a plague or an epidemic. Our Prophet has said, if you are there where a plague is taking place, don't leave. And if you're outside, don't enter. But he never said that in order to prevent the spread of disease, you have to stand 3 feet and 5 feet apart in the masjid. And when you get out of the masjid, you don't worry about that anymore. As soon as you get out of the masjid, you're all together. But in the masjid, you have to stand 3, 5 feet, 6 feet apart. This is so stupid. This is so foolish. And people who have a capacity to think will realize, well, something is wrong here. If you choose to obey the government, and therefore to disobey Allah and His Messenger, you're worshipping the government. You're not worshipping Allah anymore. I know that these words of mine are going to hit you very hard because you never thought about it this way. But I want to warn you before you go in the grave. Do you remember these words of mine? That you willfully accepted that the government had the authority to tell you how to pray. And it became the law in the masjid, the rule, the law in the masjid. The salat cannot take place unless you are standing so many feet apart. So this is bid'ah. This is bid'ah. This is an innovation. What should we do if there is an outbreak of such communicable diseases and the government declares you're not allowed to stand shoulder to shoulder? What I would do if I am the Imam is to declare we don't have the power to resist the government. We don't have an army, we don't have an air force, we don't have a navy, we don't even have a police force. How can we resist the government? We can't. So if we cannot resist the government, and if we pray shoulder to shoulder, we'll be arrested, we'll be fined in court, we have to pay so much money. What should we do? My answer is, in such a situation, if rain is falling, the azan will be called to tell people pray at home. This is Medina. So we would say, in such a situation where we are not allowed to stand shoulder to shoulder, we'll tell the people we are suspending the congregational prayer in the masjid. We are suspending the congregational prayer, Salat bil Jama'ah, in the masjid for as long as we do not have the freedom to pray as Allah and His Messenger has ordained that we should pray. Whenever that freedom is recovered, then the prayer in the masjid, in the congregation, will be resumed. This is what I would do. And so be careful now. There are those who have been listening to me, who are imams, and who have recognized they made a mistake in enforcing that law. You cannot pray in the masjid unless you have on a face mask. That is bid'ah. That is bid'ah. If you say to the people, on the other hand, if you want to wear a face mask, that's your choice, but it's not to be made obligatory, then that's different. That's different. That's not bid'ah. That is his choice to put on a face mask. But if you want to make it obligatory, then that is bid'ah. And by obeying the government rather than Allah, you're committing shirk. What is our duty to the government? When our Prophet died, Allah's blessing be upon him, and Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu was chosen by the people in a valid choice. And Imam al-Mahdi will confirm when he comes that that's a valid choice to be the Khalifa. Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam, when he comes, will confirm that Abu Bakr Siddiq was indeed the Khalifa who followed after Nabi Muhammad ﷺ died. Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu gave his first khutbah as Khalifa. And he said to the people, when I order you, you must obey me on the condition that my obedience to Abu Bakr Siddiq does not require disobedience of Allah and His Messenger. That is his order. And so we say, if you're living in the secular state today, we will obey the law of the land to the extent that the law of the land does not require us to disobey Allah and His Messenger. Is that clear? We will obey the law of the land to the extent that the law of the land does not require us to disobey Allah and His Messenger. And if the law of the land requires us to disobey Allah and His Messenger, and we are being persecuted, then instead of abandoning our religion, the time will come when a believer will have to flee to the mountainsides and to places where rain falls, and take with him some sheep and goats in order to preserve his religion, his faith. These are the words of Nabi Muhammad ﷺ. So you do not bow down uncritically like sheep and cattle and obey anything that the government gives you. You don't do that. So what are they going to do? Those who have recognized that they made a mistake and they make tawbah, I will pray behind them, of course, because I also make mistakes. I also make mistakes. The man made a mistake and he now recognizes and he's made tawbah that I should not have had this kind of salat 3 feet apart and imposing the mask as a mandatory. And now he's made tawbah. There are imams like that. So when COVID-2 comes, what's going to happen? COVID-2 is coming. I told you the footsteps of Dajjal are always in 3 parts. In Tadiku ila zillin zi thalasi shu'ab, Surah Al-Mursalat. This is my ta'weel or interpretation of the Quran. And I can be right, I can be wrong. Only Allah can confirm an interpretation of the Quran. But if it is truth, if it is correct, it is the truth and it will survive. And if it is false, tomorrow it will be followed. It will be forgotten. So the footprints of Dajjal are always in 3 parts. COVID-1 is the first part. I told you there's a COVID-2 coming and a COVID-3 coming. I told you that. 2 years ago I've been saying that. And now COVID-2 is around the corner. So if your imam has not recognized that he made a mistake, he committed shirk, what will he do when COVID-2 comes? I will tell you, when COVID-2 comes, the imam will do the same thing again. You're going to have 3 feet and 6 feet apart. You're going to have a rule, you can't have more than 8 people for Salatul Jummah. You're going to have the rule, you cannot enter the masjid unless you have on a face mask. That is COVID-2 coming up. And when COVID-3 comes, which is of course the one which will, as prophesied by the Prophet, wipe out the Arabs. When COVID-3 comes, the Imam will do the same thing again. So now you who are listening to me and who have a capacity to think and who fear the consequences of shirk. Remember Nabi Isa alayhi salam said, those who commit shirk cannot enter into Jannah. They cannot enter into Jannah. There are forms of shirk and there are grades of shirk. And so this is a grade of shirk, a form of shirk to which you have to now pay attention. Is this the shirk that will now bar me from entering Jannah? That I perform my salat behind an imam in a salat of congregation standing 3 feet apart? Will I be committing shirk? Would I be disobeying Allah and His Messenger while obeying the government? What should I do in such a state when COVID-2 comes? Would I submit to them and put on a face? I have never put on a face mask in any masjid. I have never performed salat standing 3 feet apart. And inshallah, I will never do such a stupid thing. Who want to put on a face mask? They're free. The only time I put on a face mask is when I want to go to a doctor's office, and the only way I can enter is to put on the face mask. That's not a masjid. Or when I have to go in the supermarket, they won't allow me in without a face mask. So I put it on to go in, and I take it out when I come out. So if this is what's going to happen when the COVID-2 comes, and when COVID-3 comes, that Imam is going to do the same thing, then our conclusion is don't perform your salat in such a masjid. Don't perform your salat behind such a misguided Imam. Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.